Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff and comparison review of PF Candle Company's Saltwater Jasmine Spring 2023 release. But first, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com and follow me over on Instagram at TouchTheFireTwice. But for now, let's dig into Saltwater Jasmine. If you're not familiar with PF Candle Co., check out my PF Candle Co. playlist of reviews here. Really enjoy this brand. They bring out seasonal scents, they do holiday scents, some limited edition, they pull scents from their vault. They're a California-based fragrance and candle company, and I just really enjoy the scents they put out there. I think their aesthetic is interesting, their quality is great, and they bring something to the market that really is a bit different than most companies that I found. This Saltwater Jasmine was released, let's say mid-late spring 2023. It actually currently is sold out on their website because it was a limited release. However, if you Google, you can find there are many boutiques and shops that do sell PF Candle Company, and this seems to be in stock some places. The retail on it is $24, but a couple places actually seem to have it for 20% off, so you might be able to get it for around $20 if you seek it out. This is their standard 7.2 ounce size. They sometimes go smaller. This is their standard, and they also go bigger, about a 12 and a half ounce size as well. This is a single wick 100% soy wax candle. You can see this is a post-burn review, poured in California. Again, 7.2 ounces, burn time about 40 to 50 hours, and the typical retail on this is going to be $24. So Saltwater Jasmine, let's talk about the scent story from the brand. They say, coastal mornings blanketed in a gentle marine layer, the warmth of the rising sun, wild white blossoms collecting dew. Ozonic, crisp, and clean notes of bergamot and sea moss are grounded by warm sandalwood for a soft and marine fragrance. So primary notes we're saying bergamot, sea moss, sandalwood. However, there are about 9 notes if we look at their full top, middle, bottom notes list here, which we'll dig into a little bit more after I get my nose on it. But when I smell it, it truly is that crisp, clean, ozonic fragrance. It's fresh. It's not particularly warm or cool. It's kind of like for me, like a lot of marine scents or beachy or just outdoor scents sometimes have a temperature associated with them, either from if there's something in there that's minty or green that cools it down, bright or hot and musky. For me, this one is kind of like neutral, like a 68 degrees, almost like a room temperature outside. So it's not warm or cool. There is sort of that hint of bergamot, not so much in a super citrus, zesty, bright way that you sometimes would think of bergamot, but more so in the airy freshness that it brings. So while it is there, it is more the fine fragrance interpretation of bergamot. I will say they also mention lemon in their middle notes, and I do get sort of a sourness of like a lemon juice a little bit. Overall, I would say this comes across very musky, kind of powdery. Could be from some of the florals, could be from amber and musk that are in here. It's got a sharp edge to it, that kind of ozonic, sharp, powdery, musky mixture. It's not very soft. It's kind of a gray, musky, but still fresh, stormy spring day on a coastline. Now, they mentioned sea moss. True sea moss would really smell kind of like algae, or think of, an aquarium, a fish tank. It would be wet, oceanic, marine. Sometimes an accord could be created for sea moss, and it's gonna have some citrus, some floral, some ozone, some musks to evoke that wet, damp ocean fragrance. Sometimes it's, a breeze, it's sea spray, whatever it might be, but that's gonna be what your sea moss is going to evoke in fine fragrances. So overall, this comes to me as a musky, mossy, fresh marine floral. Performance on this, quite good, as is usually the case with PF Candle Co. They're not necessarily your room fillers that go and spread into other areas of the home because they are typically smaller. The diameter is not super wide. Diameter is one of the primary influences on fragrance throw and projection, in addition, of course, to the load of fragrance oils in the wax and the wax formulation and the science and, the art and the science combined for home fragrance, specifically for candles. But with PF Candle Co., they are appropriately strong, usually moderate. I would say this easily fills a space, a bathroom, a powder room, a study, an office, a bedroom. Maybe not a huge, massive open concept, but it certainly is noticeable. It's not like some single wick candles you burn and you don't even know they're there. You will know that this is there because they do put a healthy load of fragrance oils in there, though not enough to, choke you out and overwhelm you. And because these are not super wide vessels and it has this kind of lip around the top of it to hold in the heat, they do typically pull out without the assistance of aluminum foil or something to cover it to hold in that heat, which you don't always find with single wick candles. Digging into the notes, as you see, they actually have 10 notes here. We're gonna fly through them because I always like to do for these in-depth sniff and comparison reviews, what does the brand say? What do I get when I sniff it? And what do these notes mean? Because if you like this or don't like this or know what some of these notes are, it gives you a better sense of, all right, not just, what does Josh think or of this fragrance, but what does it actually smell like? So if we can kind of educate ourselves and understand what muguet is and what jasmine is supposed to smell like and what ozone is made of and how it appears in fragrance, then we'll have a better understanding of what we like to ultimately enhance the scent memories we're creating with these candles. So digging right on in, first up, ozone. So ozone is the natural scent of freshness, as they say. It can be effervescent, slightly sharp aroma, leans to the clean side. As far as evoking that mood, moment, memory, space, place, or time, it does lean marine. It can be that cool ocean breeze, a little bit of a green characteristic, but still aquatic. Definitely get a heavy hit of that in here. And I'll go deeper into that with my comparison portion of the review because the one candle I'll compare it to also leans heavily on ozone as a note. But there's also muguet in here, which is lily of the valley. That's going to be a fresh, spring-like, light, airy floral. Watery, similar to jasmine, a crisp green floral. I don't know how much I really get of that in here. There's a small bundle of flowers in here, like a light, watery, airy floral. The florals really do get counterbalanced by the ozone and some of the depth of the musk, the moss, the amber, the sandalwood in the base notes. But muguet is one of the florals. Of course, bergamot. I think most of us know bergamot is sort of that lime zest, spicy, sparkling, fresh, sunny, airy, uplifting citrus. Think of maybe the green spiciness of basil crossed with the puckering brightness of lime. And with that, you have bergamot. Moving to jasmine, of course, jasmine, one of the kings or queens of the fragrance world. Jasmine gives a richness and intensity to fragrances. It is a sweet floral note, but with a super blatantly obvious muskiness to it. Really leans into that musky, indolic, animalistic, seductive, attractant fragrance. Leaning almost to sort of decay. Oftentimes perfumers will talk about the paradox kind of jasmine, where it is this bright, white, sweet floral, but it carries this dark, heavy, sweaty, animalistic depth to it as well. Sweet, musky, green. Lemon in here as well. That's gonna be astringent, sour, sweet undertone. Can have an aromatic nuance, bright, cheerful, and vibrant. Sometimes it's said to be like sparkling sweet sunshine bottled for fine fragrance. Don't get a lot of that in here. Maybe just a little bit of that sour undertone of the juice of lemon. Sea moss, again, as I said, a true sea moss would smell kind of like algae, wet, oceanic, marine-like. This could be perhaps an accord of citrus, floral, ozone, and musks, which as we look through this list here, we see some citrus, we see some floral, we see ozone, and we see musk. So that's my best guess, is that the sea moss note they call out in here is probably an accord of some of the other notes we're seeing in the full list of notes. Then we get into our 4 sort of heavy bases. So first we have amber. So amber is going to typically be a blend or an accord of ingredients that describes a warm, rich, resinous, powdery, sweetly musky or animalic fragrance that's really based on ambergris, which is the natural byproduct of the sperm whale's digestive tract. Not typically used in fine fragrance anymore. Now amber is typically going to be an accord of benzoin, labdanum, and vanillas, tonka, etc., to give you that powdery, rich, warm, resinous, musk-like fragrance. And then true musk, they just say musk here, so it could be, in many, many directions, but musk really is a class of aromatic substances all on their own, very commonly used as base notes in fine fragrance and perfumery. Now, typically, musk was the secretions from glands of animals, primarily the musk deer, also no longer used in fine fragrance, thankfully. But there are numerous plants that emit that similar fragrance and artificial substances as well that create those odors. They're attractants, alluring, hypnotizing, animalistic, sweet, powdery, metallic. Some of the same adjectives you might use to describe amber. In my mind, they're very closely related, but still different in sort of what they evoke and how they're used in fragrances. Then vanilla. Of course, vanilla can be sweet, warm, and comforting, can be heady, a bit earthy, boozy, or spicy. There's your edible gourmand bakery, or your mature, your rich, your floral, your sensual. I don't truly pick out vanilla in here. I trust that it's in there if it's listed in the notes, but in this case, it would be more so just some sort of grounding, earthy, almost more sort of that tonka or sort of rich vanilla. And finally, sandalwood. So sandalwood is a creamy sweetness when it comes to a wood, warm, smooth, sophisticated, woody, earthy, and soft. It's a slow-growing, yellow, fine-grained wood that can actually retain its scent for decades, and it adds that creamy, rich sweetness, very unique from other woods. So when you put that all together, certainly this is fresh, marine-like, oceanic, but it really does have a heavy hit of the amber, musk, sandalwood to counteract the bright, airy freshness of your ozone, of your bergamot, of your lemon, and quite frankly, of your florals. But at the same time, the muguet, lily of the valley, and jasmine are florals that are going to be somewhat watery, white, delicate, but within themselves counterbalanced with, especially the jasmine, the true jasmine, with that animalic, indolic, musky, alluring richness. And so it really is a bit of all that mashed together, and it's very interesting. End of day, it's not my absolute favorite fragrance. This is one, for me, it'd probably be a one and done. It wouldn't be something I would need to burn every year. But for someone who wants that really uniquely, let's say, sort of heavily musky, rich marine, because so many marines lean bright, light, almost tropical, or just a little bit of driftwood in there. When you think of your Bath & Body Works, it's going to be kind of, sort of that, a bit of a wood, a bit of a citrus, and just kind of straightforward and thin. This does bring a unique sort of depth to what would normally just traditionally be a floral marine fragrance. Now, my comparison review on this, when I first sniffed this, it immediately made me think of another candle that I reviewed earlier this year from Boy Smells, and that is Grace Jones by Grace Jones with Boy Smells. And sniffing them side by side, they really are quite similar. If you want to see my in-depth sniff review on Grace Jones by Grace Jones and Boy Smells, you can check out that video here. Side by side, they are really sister scents, incredibly, incredibly similar. The primary difference I would say is Grace Jones does not have as much of the warmth from, let's say, like the vanilla and the sandalwood. The Grace Jones also has a bit more of that kind of like wet stone. If you watch this review, I talk a lot about ozone and petrichor and that idea of the scent you get when rainwater hits stone, hits slate, and just ground around us, and the mixture of the scent we get from that, which is that mixture of ozone and plant oils and bacterias. And this is more on that, like licking a dry mineral slate rock. There's much more of that dry minerality to this. But beyond that, they're very, very similar. Side by side, you can sense the difference. Without it, they really could almost pass for each other. And when we look at the notes and do a side-by-side cross comparison for the two, they do share bergamot, lily, amber, musk, and waterstone, which I'd say could be almost interchangeable for either your sea moss or your ozone. So you're talking 5-ish notes that really do share similarities. Both unique in their own rights, both great fragrances, and it comes down to, do you want something that's a little bit more heavy on the wet stone mineral side, or one that leans just a bit warmer with your sandalwood and vanilla base, just a little bit warmer than the truly cooling Grace Jones. The other thing is Grace Jones is going to cost you $52 for 8.5 ounces versus $20 to $24 for your 7.5 ounce Saltwater Jasmine. So if you want to check out Grace Jones but didn't want to drop that much cash, this would be a really good follow-up to it. So those are my thoughts on Saltwater Jasmine. Please be sure to check out my upcoming videos. I will have some more PF Candle Company. They did a recent release of candles from their archive where they found some fragrance oils and did new pours of some fragrances that I had not experienced before, and I did a haul of 3 candles from that release, which I will be reviewing shortly as well. And though this is not sponsored and I did purchase this with my own money, if you would like to use my Friends of PF rewards code, you can get 20% off your first order, and you can find that linked below in the description. If you do purchase anything, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this or whatever other fragrances you purchase. And until next time, take care.